Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 2 Minutes to Review. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
One of the most highly anticipated albums of 2021, the Foo Fighters, the new one, Medicine at Midnight, is finally here. And it definitely is a brand new year and some brand new music because there's a whole bunch of things I got to say on this. Zach, why don't you give us a little more background on the album?
I mean, I kind of feel like you're just eager to talk about this already. But, I'm going to make you wait for it. I am going to make you wait for it. But, I mean, first off, I'm going to make you feel old. I love making you feel old. The Foo Fighters.
Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. We're Epic Footnote, and we'll talk to you next time.
Well, last year, the band celebrated its 25th anniversary since Dave Grohl actually founded Foo Fighters. I say celebrated with a little bit of an asterisk because, surprise, they weren't able to celebrate. In fact, not only were they not able to tour or perform festivals, in fact, I'm still a little bitter because I was supposed to see Foo Fighters with Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machine at Boston Calling, but they also didn't get to release Medicine at Midnight, which they actually recorded in anticipation of being released in 2020, but surprise, surprise, COVID stopped them from that. And in interviews, Dave Grohl was saying that, they were holding out hope that maybe they could, actually tour behind the album. But then they finally realized, you know what? We just got to do this already. There's no point in waiting. And I actually really admire that too. Especially because a few months ago when we got to review the Pearl Jam new album, Gigaton, which everyone loves making fun of me for not knowing how to pronounce properly. We really just appreciated having that new music during some of these really trying times. And especially a band like Foo Fighters, because Matt, I mean, not to speak for you, but Foo Fighters are one of my favorite bands. I love Dave Grohl, everything that he does. Mm-hmm. And they are usually one of the most reliable bands in music, not even just rock, but in music. So
yeah, I can agree with that.
So before we even get into our opinions about Medicine at Midnight, I guess we owe a thank you to Dave Grohl for giving us something to look forward to. But without further ado, Matt, do you want to go first? I feel like you got a lot on your mind right now. That if I make you wait even 2 minutes, you're gonna explode.
Well, I'm going to wait longer than 2 minutes because you have a habit of going longer than 2 minutes. Oh, snap.
Fighting words.
Prove me wrong.
All right. Starting the clock. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I feel like we kind of get shortchanged on this new Foo Fighters album. 9 songs for only 36 minutes. Guys, you had some time. Why didn't you put more on the album? But with that being said, if that's my only gripe, great. You know what? It'll be a great Foo Fighters 36 minutes. However, there's a lot of this album that kind of makes me wonder why. Like, Dave Grohl says that this is their party album. Well, if songs like Shame, Shame come up in a party, the party better be sponsored by Xanax. The album kind of has some snoozy points, like I said, with Shame, Shame. But then it really kind of makes me question what they were doing here because I got taken out of the album a lot because I feel like I've heard some of what is on this album before, but it's not from the Foo Fighters. Like Love Dies Young. The main guitar riff is straight out of Queen's Keep Yourself Alive. Medicine at Midnight sounds like they contacted Robin Thicke to help him write a song and they just couldn't get past blurred lines. No Son of Mine sounds like Rammstein. The driving drums, the galloping guitar riff. Now, on that one, I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't stay that way throughout the entire song and they kind of go back to maybe a little bit of an earlier Foo Fighters sound, which is good. Now, people are going to probably criticize me and say, well, Sonic Highways, had some inspiration. Yeah, but that album was kind of derived like that. They went all over. They recorded all over. They took inspirations from the cities, hence why the song they did in Chicago kind of sounds a little bit like Dio's Holy Diver with that guitar riff. But to sum up this album, this is the Foo Fighters. I think they're trying to channel their best David Bowie, sort of kind of China Girl era Bowie, but what they need to do is go back and channel what made the Foo Fighters a special band on an album like Wasting Light.
And we got a time. So was that the best of you in that review?
That was the best of anything I heard off of this.
Ranking. 1 out of 5 stars. What would you give this?
You mean 1 through 5 stars?
1 through 5 stars. I don't know. I can't count.
2.
Oof.
See, another thing that I don't mention in the review that I have thoughts about, and you actually kind of took some wind out of my sails when you said that they wanted to really tour behind this album, because what it sounds like is that they were taking a chance on them not having to play this live, because listening to how some of these songs would slot into a Foo Fighters set, it would be like it better be a party sponsored by Xanax. This album, if it's their party album, they need to redefine what a party actually is.
Or maybe they're just getting that old where they're just happy to be around people and they don't need to actually party. Let's find out if I agree with you.
Well, I have a feeling that you may or may not.
I mean, that literally is the only options. You definitely showed all the cards there.
What can I say?
I have a feeling you might like it or you might not.
You know what? I'm not a very good poker player, and I wonder if that's why.
All right.
Are you ready to do this?
I was going to do another Best of You reference, but I used to be so good at band puns. I'm sorry, I need to address this. I swear I used to be good band puns, but then if you listen to some of our past episodes, I admit I've been slacking. I don't know what happened to me. Hashtag adulting. I don't know.
Zach, you're still my hero.
Damn it. That's a good one. Like, that was legit gold.
You ready to do this?
I don't know anymore.
All right, we're wasting light here. Let's go.
Oh, I need some medicine at midnight.
That was terrible. 3.
Again, I tell now. No. Not gonna lose because you distracted me with your gold. Anyway,
there's concrete with that gold. Thank you.
God
3.
Damn it. All my life, I've been trying to just come up with good puns. That was decent.
That was the best that you've had.
Yeah. Times like these are just, I'm not at my highest.
That
was a good one. No, that was a good one. I want that one on the record. Count me down, damn it.
3, 2, 1, go.
So a quick little history lesson, and Matt kind of already alluded to this. Nearly 10 years ago, Foo Fighters released Wasting Light, which is an album that proved that to be one of the most creatively energized albums of all time, even after 10 years. Sadly, here we are 25 years after Foo Fighters started, and Medicine at Midnight really is making me question if they are losing steam, which is just really sad. And I think, admittedly, I kind of already went into this album questioning that, because the first 3 singles, Shame, Shame, Waiting for War, and No Son of Mine, they're not bad songs by any means, but they're not all that exciting. And they have their moments. It just ultimately fails to build up to anything that's new or even interesting. Some of them are growing on me, but there's just no energy behind it. That's the word I keep going to. But then I actually, when I was listening to the album, there's songs like Making a Fire, Cloud Spotter, and even the title track that, okay, maybe it's not the most original sounding stuff, but I get what Dave Grohl was saying, that this was their David Bowie's Let's Dance album. And it actually was making me angry. It's like, these songs were actually at least a little interesting and a little bit fun. Why weren't these the singles? It just didn't get to me. But then in the end of the day, it just all comes down to it's lacking. There's no vigor on this album. I get it. They're trying to make a stadium rock album if it was done by the Talking Heads and David Bowie in the 80s. But to me, it just lacks something. It lacks motivation. And while everyone might always joke that, all right, it's the Dave Grohl show, it's always been the Dave Grohl show, at least on past albums, when you listen to it, you can feel the band invested. Yeah, Dave Grohl might be the captain steering the ship, but you can hear and feel the rest of the band really working to keep that boat floating. And on this album, it's like, what's going on? Why do I feel like I'm only seeing Dave Grohl on the boat by himself? Why is no one else invested in it? I guess in just short, I wish there was more. I wish it's not a bad album, but I just wish there was more.
All right, we've got a time. Star rating, sir.
I'm going to say 3.
3.
Yeah,
That's kind of generous.
it's generous. Because I'll put it like this. If this was any other band, if this was even maybe an older band, I would say, wow, this is pretty good. But it's disappointing because the Foo Fighters have such an incredible energy to them. And I feel like this is the first sign that, oh man, maybe the Foo Fighters really are an old heritage band. Maybe they're not the exciting new band that I've always been like. I'm watching them age in front of me. It's kind of like I'm suddenly feeling the same feeling that when people in the 80s or 90s would watch their favorite bands from the 70s slowly become corporate rock, just producing music that could easily be in just their soundtracks.
Well, then, you know what? I really think that if you are putting it that way, I feel like what I said with, they're taking stuff from Queen. It sounds like Robin Thicke helped him out on a song,
absolutely. Actually, so Love Dies Young, I actually think that is what the Killers would sound like if Dave Grohl was singing for them.
I couldn't get past Queen. Like, I'm sitting there.
I agree. There's definitely a Queen element to it too.
Right. But I'm sitting there listening to it and I'm thinking, why have I heard this?
You know what? And I think,
wait, this is Queen.
You know what I think I was trying to, and I struggled with this review because it pains me to say anything bad about the Foo Fighters because I love them so much. But I think what I was really trying to say was that I appreciate them trying something different, but it felt like with every song, they weren't fully committed to trying something different, that they kept going, we're going to do something different. And suddenly at the last minute, they go, no, we need to play it safe. Like it's the safest sounding experimental album I've heard from a rock band in a long time.
Well, that's what Shame was when it came out. And I remember having this conversation with you early on that, like, okay, great, new Foo Fighters song. Yeah, let's listen to it. And then, I was getting into the bass riff, and then we hit the chorus.
Which, by the way, complete ripoff of Talking Heads.
Yes.
As soon as I heard it,
another one. Yep.
And the days go by. I'm like, wait, really? Are they just blatantly ripping it off now?
Right. So I remember I was sitting there and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, this is a cool bass riff. And then Dave Grohl and the vocals really kind of kick up in the chorus. And then it goes back to like the bass riff and it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat. And that's it. Like,
yeah, it goes nowhere.
Where'd the rest of the song go?
One thing I do want to bring up, I don't know if you read this interview that Grohl did with Mojo. He was talking about how the studio or the rehearsal space or wherever they were recording this album, they kept having supernatural experiences. And he's going into great detail about like spooky things that were happening while they were recording. But then he suddenly let it slip that all those experiences made the band actually like want to finish the album faster. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, that would explain why this album. That would explain why this album kind of feels half-baked. He sounds like Dave Grohl, and I love hearing his voice, but I feel as if Dave Grohl had said, hey, here's a solo album. I just wanted to make a dance rock album. Here's my solo record. I'd be like, oh, this is a lot of fun. But it doesn't sound like a band record.
No, it definitely doesn't. It sounds like you kept saying the energy, and it just sounds lacking. Like there's stuff that I'm waiting for. Like I'm waiting for like a tasty original guitar lick or a guitar solo, or I'm waiting for Dave Grohl to do something completely original on vocals, and it doesn't really happen.
Yeah. I actually think Making a Fire and the title track is the closest they get to going, oh, they're all right. They're onto something here. There's something missing in that even, but at least to me, if they had come up with those two songs as the first singles, I would have been a little bit more on board.
Yeah.
Whereas the first three singles, like even Waiting for a War, which you could argue, going back and forth, like even like a song like Chasing Birds, very pretty song, but that could have easily been a B-side on any other Foo Fighters record. It goes back to the whole, here they are saying, we're trying something different. But then suddenly going, well, not too different. We still got to pay the bills here. Like either poop or get off the pot. And yeah, I did censor myself there. Every time you think they're about to pull the trigger on something different, they end up playing it safe. And it's just like, but this is like that's all. That's the best way to describe it. It's And I give it 3 stars because I also recognize that if this was any other band, I probably would have enjoyed it more.
If you told me that this was just another alt rock band, yeah, this would be a good album. Yes.
The Foo Fighters have, like we said before, one of the most reliable bands in music. For them to just, even like their B-side, like on the whim, like fast recorded stuff, like Saint, why am I blanking?
Saint Cecilia.
Saint Cecilia. That song was recorded literally on a whim in a hotel, and that still was awesome. To me, it really does sound like a half-baked album, but I'm still sticking to 3 stars because maybe it's too soon for me to acknowledge that it's just a bad album, or maybe I'm still stuck on the fact that it's Foo Fighters, so my expectations were just extra high.
I don't think so. I mean, you really can with the Foo Fighters almost every time they put out an album, give it at least 3 stars because the Foo Fighters never put out garbage. They never just put out a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
You know, you might not be into it as much as another Foo Fighters album, but it's not a dumpster fire. This one is as close, in my opinion, to a Foo Fighters dumpster fire than that you could find. Like Concrete and Gold, I wasn't crazy about it.
But there's some amazing moments on that album, though.
There is, but you can also hear that the Foo Fighters are taking kind of this downturn and they're losing some of the steam that they had coming off of Wasting Light. Now,
this album just feels flat.
This one, yes, it sounds like they took the worst of Concrete and Gold and said, we need something else to put out. Let's give the fans something, you know, to get everybody through this trying time. Maybe we're not going to play these songs live, but you confirmed that they said in an interview that they wanted to tour behind this really heavy.
They've made it even clear when they announced the album that this album's been done. And they were initially sitting on it until Dave Grohl finally goes, you know what, there's no point in waiting anymore. And I think you made the point going that, you know, like it's hard to imagine them trying to play this live. It reminds me so much of the incredible bands from the 70s who come time in the 80s when they're really just touring on the hits, but they just need a piece of merch to sell at the booths. So screw it, let's just go in the studio real quick and then we'll sell the CD at the merch table. I almost feel like this is the equivalent of that for the Foo Fighters. Yeah. And that makes me sad that we're getting to the point that the Foo Fighters are no longer, maybe they'll deny it and maybe others will disagree, but this is the closest I feel to getting we're just going to go on the road and tour behind this album to sell some stuff and have an excuse to tour, which makes it even sadder when they couldn't even tour behind it.
I'm going to say 2 more points and then I'm done harping on this. The first point is that none of these songs, in my opinion, would come second tour after this album, would make the playlist, period, on a nightly basis. I don't think any of them are that strong. Second, this is their Saint Anger.
Ooh, oh.
From a production standpoint, it's a fantastic album from a production standpoint. It's crisp,
I actually wasn't even that thrilled with the production on this album. That's beside the point.
I didn't mind the production at all. I thought it sounded pretty good, but just from a jarring perspective from a fan of the band, I don't think there's any other album in their catalog, even comparing like Concrete and Gold maybe to like a Load or a Reload. This one is just that downturn even further into Saint Anger territory.
See, I disagree with that because at least with Saint Anger, they were trying something different. Say what you will about that album, there was some heart behind some of those songs and some of those lyrics. This album, I don't hear any heart. I can't even imagine the band in the studio together recording this. Like, you know how sometimes you can just envision the whole band sitting around the soundboard, listening to the playback and going, yeah, we did it, guys. This one, I almost imagine going, all right, so Taylor is going to come in and lay down tracks on Monday, and then he has to go to a bar mitzvah on Tuesday. So we got to really do that. Like, if you were to tell me that the Foo Fighters weren't even in the same room during this recording process, I would not be surprised, which makes me so sad to say that out loud because, again, they are one of the most reliable and tight bands out there. I hear no heart. Only one who I really kind of hear heart from are Grohl and the backup singers that they hired. Otherwise, it could have been any session player. I really kind of wish it was just a Dave Grohl solo album so that I can enjoy it more.
But you know what? This doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
None of what we said matters.
Really matter. Matthew, would you like to know your score?
Yes. What was my time?
Your time was 1 minute and 56 seconds.
Boom. That is how you play this game.
Obviously, my time was perfect.
Your time was perfect if we were playing 3 minutes to review, because your time, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Don't get up in arms. It's okay.
Well, that was so disappointing. Just like Medicine at Midnight. That's just our opinion. What do you think? Do you agree?
I'm really curious to hear your opinion.
I'm not just trying to plug our socials here. We really want to know. What do you think of Foo Fighters' Medicine at Midnight? Do you agree with us? Are you disappointed? Do you think we're crazy? Do you think it really is the fun party record that Dave Grohl promised? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even on YouTube. Please comment on this video. Comment on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Libsyn, any streaming platform that you're listening to right now. Comment and let us know at Epic Footnote. We want to hear from you, and thank you so much for listening to us ramble and try to make really bad Foo Fighter puns.
We just want the best of you. See ya.
That's not fair. I've been trying to use that one all night. Have a good night.